In Brazil that are consuming the Amazon, as one NASA scientist warns most of the infernos have been intentionally set. NBC's Ann Thompson has the latest.
Urgent pleas to save the rainforest as the Amazon burns. One NASA scientist saying nearly all the fires at Satellite C in Brazil were started by people, making room for crops and cattle, but now threaten the health of the entire planet.
What starts in the Amazon doesn't stay in the Amazon. It changes air quality for people near and far, and it changes our planet by adding greenhouse gases and exacerbating the problems of climate change.
I'm not going to be able to stay here long because this fire is spreading, but
Conservationist Paul Rosalie was at this fire on the Brazil-Peru border last month.
There are literally millions of animals in this forest that cannot escape right now.
How many animals were you able to rescue?
None. They were all burned.
His video and the hashtag Pray for Amazonia shared on social media today, but more needs to be done.
This should be the wake-up call that pulls us back from the edge.
In the northern hemisphere, parts of Siberia and Alaska are burning too, just weeks after a blistering July, the hottest month on record.
What we're seeing on a warmer, drier planet is a risk of larger and more extreme wildfires.
Living with the consequences of a changing climate. Ann Thompson, NBC News.
Also tonight, amazing new images from thousands of feet below the sea of the Titanic. Explorers captured video of a century-old shipwreck deteriorating at a rapid rate. Kelly Kobiea has the images that experts say left them shocked.
The wreck of the Titanic, seen for the first time in over a decade, almost completely covered in deep-sea bacteria feeding on the ship's metal, eroding much faster than expected. The legendary ship inspired an Oscar-winning movie and this iconic scene on the bow. This was the bow 14 years ago. This is the bow today. Those icicle shapes, bacteria. But the famous bathtub in the captain's quarters now hidden under a collapsing deck. The glamorous ship thought to be unsinkable when it set sail from England in 1912 on its maiden voyage to New York. 2 days later, colliding with an iceberg in the North Atlantic. This latest expedition used the highest tech submersible and cameras to study how the ship is now breaking down.
It is a big wreck. I wasn't fully ready for just how large it was.
The bacteria now turning the ship's 50,000 tons of iron into powder. The team laid a wreath and paid tribute to the 1,500 who lost their lives when the Titanic sank. The last survivor passed away 10 years ago. These latest images will be used to create 3D models to help keep the memory of the Titanic alive. Lester?
All right, Kelly Kobiea, thanks. Next, how the soaring cost of insulin is forcing some people with diabetes to take desperate measures like rationing doses and switching drugs. One mother's son died as a result. Tonight, NBC's Jolene Kent has her heartbreaking story as well as a new idea to solve this crisis in tonight's Your Money, Your Life.
Erin Weaver was always worried about her 27-year-old son Josh, a type 1 diabetic.
My son couldn't afford the life-saving medication he needed. He had insurance through his job.
Even so, his prescription cost him $1,200 a month, more than his rent. So last year, he switched to a cheaper, over-the-counter version.
The switch caused a shock to his system.
Within months, he died.
As a mom, I feel like it's my fault.
Millions of Americans are struggling with the same terrifying problem. According to new data from the CDC, more than 13% of adults don't take their insulin as prescribed because it's too expensive. 24% have asked their doctor for a cheaper prescription. Now, states like Colorado are taking action. This summer, the governor signed the first law to cap the price of insulin at $100 a month for patients with insurance. Other states, including California, Minnesota, and Pennsylvania, are also considering laws to rein in prices.
This is a crisis for the diabetes community. If a person rations their insulin, there can be immediate consequences that can lead to deadly complications.
This grieving mother, now an advocate for others, so they won't have to endure the pain she lives with every day.
And this world feels a little emptier without him in it.
Jolene Kent, NBC News.
All right, we have much more still.
I want to comment real quick to my viewers. First of all, about the diabetes. What they're talking about as far as his body going into a shock because he had to change the insulin. I can verify that because at first I was at a steady account with my diabetes 2 until I had a colonoscopy done. After I'd done the colonoscopy, it threw my whole system off in the haywire to the point that now my diabetes has spiked and now I'm having to take insulin for diabetes 2, which isn't as bad as diabetes 1, but it's still bad and it can still lead to fatal conditions. My main concern was wanting people to see the tremendous damage that we're doing to this planet. And I don't know if people are on drugs down there in South America. I don't know if it's out of greed because they're wanting more farmland. But it's absolutely insane if people are deliberately catching the forest on fire so that they can think that they're going to be able to have more farming land. The rainforest down there, the Amazons, is essential for 25% of our oxygen that feeds the whole planet. And then if you'll combine that with the major fires going on over there in Russia, the major fires right now going on in Alaska, if we continue on the path that we're on towards not taking care of our forestry, eventually our health will diminish tremendously, especially if you live in low-lying city areas, to the point that asthma and bronchitic breathing problems is going to intensify, probably, I don't know how much percentage, but it's going to intensify. And the fact of the matter is, whenever the Heavenly Father sees this type of damage that we're doing to the planet, it just gives that much more of a license towards Him coming back and fulfilling the book of Revelations, just as He promised that He would come back and bring destruction towards those who are bringing destruction to this planet. That's the reason why I put out the notice that I put out today, in which it may have sounded a bit corny, or some people may have even thought, well, he's being humorous, because I used the football players, the Titans, to emphasize upon to the movie the Titans, pertaining to the famous saying was something in regard of letting something happen. In other words, unleash something upon to the planet, the crackling upon to the planet. I know a lot of people thought, well, he's being humorous. No, trust me, I'm not being humorous. I'm trying to wake people up pertaining to what is going on this planet, and I'm trying to wake people up towards what biblical Bible prophecy has done already prophesied towards what's going to occur if we don't start paying close attention to what we're doing to this planet. There is red flag signs going up everywhere pertaining to the weather events that are becoming abnormally extreme. And just a couple degrees in the ocean can make all the difference in the world towards having a bad storm that only hits every 100 years or every 500 years versus having one of them that hits every year. In other words, whenever we do get hit by a hurricane, it won't be a Category 1 or a Category 2. It'll be a Category 4 or a Category 5. And if you go to the other side of the planet, where hurricanes actually spin in the opposite direction, instead of spinning clockwise, they spin counterclockwise, they're already getting extreme weather over there to the point of seeing astronomical wind velocity that's just absolutely going off the charts. absolutely going off the charts. Scientist is trying to wake people up. Al Gore tried to wake people up. The people in the state of Tennessee laughed at Al Gore. They said he was an owl lover. They said he was a tree hugger. Now, 20 years later, look at what's happening to the planet. Please, please, do not take these things lightly. Thank you for listening. Good luck to all of us.